Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Now, in case you missed my post about this on social media, I'm happy to announce there's a brand new series that just debuted on my Patreon page this week called It Came From Memphis. This is going to be a once every 3 to 4 week series that will be coming out on the Patreon page, where I take a closer look at some of the wild and wacky and ridiculous gimmicks that came from Memphis wrestling over the many decades while Jerry Lawler was booking the territory. We were starting out this week with Tagar, Lord of the Volcano, especially kind of a deep dive on him. And like I said, yeah, these episodes are going to come out every 3 to 4 weeks. It's exclusively for Patreon backers. Doesn't matter how much you put down per month. It's available for all my Patreon backers. So check that out, patreon.com/wrestlingwithwregret. It Came From Memphis. One of the many perks you'll get exclusively by going to the Patreon page. And with that, it's on with the reviews. Raw opens up with an actual match for a change. In this case, it's what they're calling a mosh pit mixed tag team match for the 24/7 title as R-Truth and Carmella defend against Drake Maverick and his wife Renee. I believe that's her official name now, and his wife Renee. A bunch of guys are outside the ring. They're essentially lumberjacks, I think, but they're called the mosh pit. Never fully explained why they're called that. Speaking of things that are never fully explained, I don't think they've ever actually mentioned on programming that and his wife Renee is an actual trained wrestler, that she was actually in the Mae Young Classic. According to canon, she's not a wrestler. She just shows up and she's there by Drake's side, and all of a sudden she's in a match and she's got this, wonderful ring gear on her, which, by the way, it matches the color scheme of the 24/7 title. Very nice choice. It's also kind of amazing that Drake got his fiance and now his wife booked on Raw by being one of the more entertaining side characters to the whole R-Truth as champion story arc. It's amazing what we can do with a little bit of ingenuity. I love how R-Truth and Carmella get their entire rap entrance while everyone around the ring and in the ring just stares at them going, well, what do we do while they're rapping and dancing? Anyway, we don't get any mosh pitting in this mosh pit mixed tag match, but we do get crowd surfing, which is not the same thing. They both happen at concerts, but no. Anyway, Truth wins the match. He beats Drake, retains the title. Right afterward, all the mosh pitters get up on the apron and surround him, get a big old dog pile in the middle of the ring. The referee makes a count. Who comes out on top? Why, it's Mike Kanellis. He emerges the new 24/7 champion. He flees the backstage area, hides in the referee's room, dressing room. Maria Kanellis parts the seas of all the guys who are trying to barge in there, and she asks Mike, let her in, or she will kick him in the vagina. Great googly moogly, this is something. Your next match is a gauntlet match to determine who will face AJ Styles at SummerSlam for the US Championship. Rey Mysterio and Cesaro start things off. Good stuff by these guys. Rey wins. Sami Zayn is in next. He comes in really hot, but ultimately he's beaten like 30 seconds by Rey. Nice seeing you, Sami. Andrade is next. He beats Mysterio with a hammerlock DDT and then actually rips Mysterio's mask off. We actually see a little bit of his face for a split second before his hands come up. Pretty shocking. Not too many people have done that action to Rey in the ring there. Ricochet comes out last, so it's him and Andrade in the final two, and these two have great chemistry. I really want to see these two have a more prolonged, like proper singles match against each other, but either way, Rico wins the 6:30 on Andrade, so he is facing AJ at SummerSlam for the US title, which seems pretty much how it was meant to be the entire time, but still a good match to get us there. After the match, we go backstage where Maria Kanellis makes her husband Mike lay down for her so she can pin him with her foot to become the new 24/7 champion, and she's going all around the backstage area posing with the belt going, first ever pregnant champion, first ever pregnant champion. Ooh, what an evil heel, what an evil plan coming to fruition here. I'm actually really interested in seeing where the story goes, because it's nice for the story of the championship to transition away from Truth and Drake for a little bit and go to this whole new chapter and see what they can do and how they can explore with this one, because now we've established the 24/7 title is an intergender championship. Now it opens the floodgates for something like this to happen. I'm really curious to see where they go with this. Is she really going to hold this belt to term because no one wants to pin her to become the new champion? I think what's going to happen is she's actually going to hold the belt all the way to term, and they're going to film this segment of her where she's delivering the baby, and then R-Truth just emerges from her uterus and pins her on the table in the delivery room to become the new champion. Ooh, what a payoff that's going to be. Also, one final note I have about the angle before I move on. It's just crazy to think how naive we were a few weeks ago when they debuted this Mike and Maria cuckolding angle, and we all thought thought they were being punished for something. It turns out it's the exact opposite of that. They're on TV every week, and one of them's a champion now. This is a push. This is not punishment. It's time now for a moment of bliss. Alexa shows some footage from earlier in the day when Becky Lynch jumps Natalya in the ring during training and warm-ups before the doors open, and she puts the disarmer on Natalya. Alexa talks some mess about Becky. Becky shows up on the big screen to talk her down, then questions Nikki Cross's Celtic pride. It's a really weird sentence for her to say. Anyway, after that's done, she's done talking, the Usos interrupt and they say, "We're not missing Monday Night Raw for nothing." I'm like, yeah, apparently. What's it going to take to get you guys off TV? Because the big news from last week was Jimmy Uso was arrested for a DUI, and this is not his first run-in with the law, in this year alone, in fact. Just what the hell? Like, what the hell is all I can really say about this. It's very irresponsible and frustrating on so many levels. The timing is amazing, considering how it was just that same week on the Raw reunion when John Cena clowned on both the Usos for their arrest records as of late, and they just kind of laughed off, "Oh, it's a joke, yay, DUIs, what have you." I think what's more frustrating about Jimmy doing what he did was the company is doing nothing, it seems, to punish these guys. The statement was, oh, well, Jimmy Uso's responsible for his own actions. Great. What's going to happen if, God forbid, something truly terrible happens at his hands behind the wheel and you did nothing to try and curb that? That is really frustrating and scary, and I hope it never comes to that. It's frustrating because, it's who they are and who their family is, that they don't seem to be getting any kind of real punishment. And we'll see that play out a little more frustratingly so as the night goes on. So yes, the Usos are out there to take part in a triple threat match for the Raw Tag Team titles as the Revival defend against the Usos and Anderson and Gallows of the OC. On a lighter note from all that Jimmy Uso bullshit, this is actually a really entertaining match, really fun stuff. And oh my god, wrestling takes place during commercial breaks again. I always complained about the number of commercials in between matches, but man, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Because the last several weeks of all the 2 out of 3 fall matches and all the match restarts and everything, really annoying, really frustrating, really unnecessary. Now that they're bringing wrestling back during the commercial breaks, I think, oh man, it's like they're unkinking a hose, and I'm used to this and I'm comfortable with this, so it's back and I'm very happy. We get a shot of AJ Styles watching the match from a not ridiculous angle on the television. Wild finishing sequence in which everyone gets their shit in. Ultimately, Jimmy Uso, I guess this is his punishment. He's the one who eats the magic killer at the end, and Anderson and Gallows are the new Raw Tag Team Champions. So after a great match, now we see all of the OC having gold. They are the champs that run the camp. And that's great. I mean, the OC having the US title and the Raw Tag titles, it's like they're being pushed all of a sudden, kind of out of nowhere almost, as this like mega stable in the company now, which I think is very refreshing. I love it. And then of course the best part of this was after the match, AJ, you see him backstage meticulously arranging the plate of snacks and everything, the party they're going to have. And then as soon as the club comes in, he gets on the table, kicking all the shit down, and like he's making a big mess. He's like screaming his head off. That's insanity. We have the Viking Raiders versus some local talent up next. And as you might expect, the jobbers get murdered. My favorite part about this match, though, is I'm finally noticing the referee. Because like as they're getting ready for the first double team move, the referee's like, "Come on, guys, you made the tag. Oh, wait. What do you, oh God, no. Hearing him emote over what the Viking Raiders are about to do is pretty hilarious. So anyway, they win the match, and then we go backstage to the Street Profits, casually imply that Angelo Dawkins fucked Maria Kanellis, and then Seth Rollins appears, they yuck it up for a bit, and then that's the end of that segment. Becky Lynch takes on Alexa Bliss in non-title action up next. It's an okay match, but then like as Becky's making her big comeback, Alexa suddenly, her ankle gives out, she seems to have sprained it. Whatever move or landing she did to precipitate the ankle injury didn't look like much. I played it back a few times to make sure, but yeah, she's selling like death. She's openly weeping over the ankle injury. Nikki Cross gets on the apron. I'm pretty sure she calls Becky the C word, but there's people debating this apparently. But we get a match after the commercial break between Becky and Nikki, and again, it's a good matchup here. Alexa's hanging out ringside afterward despite being horrifically injured, but Becky wins the match after struggling to get the manhandle slam on her. Afterward, Alexa miraculously recovers from her injury, and then the two of them beat on Becky Lynch. Natalya comes out, Alexa and Nikki split, and then Natalya puts Becky in the sharpshooter for a very long time, so he gets a bit of payback from earlier in the night, which by the way, Becky seemed like a real big heel as a result of just randomly jumping Natalya in the ring earlier in the day. I guess it's that whole idea of she's kind of a tweener, so she just kind of beats people up indiscriminately, and it's supposed to be part of her charm, but it did come off very heelish, especially also with the promo she cut on Moment of Bliss afterward. Then after the beatdown Natalya gives, she cuts a promo and says, I would challenge Becky to a submission match at SummerSlam, but I know she won't accept it, so I won't challenge her. So a bit of reverse psychology there, and that's also some heel work by Natalya as well. Kind of less shades of gray with the Becky Lynch-Natalya storyline as of right now. Hard to tell who is actually a clear-cut heel or babyface among either of them, but I like the idea of a submission match between these two at SummerSlam. That could be pretty good. Elsewhere backstage, Maria Kanellis is getting pictures taken of her with the 24/7 title. Braun Strowman appears. Maria goes on a rant about estrogen and then asks Braun to be the big, strong man that she knows he is. And then we just get this slow zoom in on Braun as he just kind of like breathes heavily and grunts to no one in particular. And that's the end of the segment. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, are they trying to make her, like, control Braun to further cuckold Mike Kanellis? One can only guess, but I wouldn't say I'm like excited to see where it's going, but I'm definitely curious. In your final match of the night, Seth Rollins takes on Dolph Ziggler, who absolutely trolls the crowd by coming out to Shawn Michaels' theme music and everything. Gosh, do you think they're building to a match between those two somewhere down the line? Anyway, this match is great. I mean, these two, if you saw their stuff last year, you know they have really great chemistry together, really great action here. Before we get a winner, though, Brock Lesnar shows up, and he beats the shit out of Seth Rollins. He suplexes him on the floor, many F5s, a few of them in a row are on like the top of the steel chair, so Seth's got this internal bleeding, it's like Kool-Aid's come out of his mouth, he's making these awful retching noises, and so yeah, Seth is beat up pretty bad here a couple weeks before SummerSlam. Then after the match, as Seth is being wheeled off to the ambulance, we get this brawl just kind of break out of nowhere between Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe and the Usos and the OC. They fight their way off camera, we go back to the ambulance, Seth's being loaded in and starts to pull off, then Brock Lesnar shows up, stops the ambulance, yanks Seth out of the ambulance, beats him up some more, another F5, this time on the edge of the stretcher. So more bleeding, more owies from Seth Rollins and stuff. Way to make Brock look even more of a killer than he already looked like. Just to really hammer home the point of how just evil and how black-hearted he is by just callously destroying Seth Rollins over and over again on this night. I'm not a huge fan of Seth's character right now. I think his run, like the little feud he had with Baron Corbin and the mixed tag thing at Extreme Rules, I think that really, I don't want to say it ruined his character, but there's something about his character right now that makes me say, hey, he's a top guy. But maybe that can change over time. But this was, I think, good build, more insurmountable odds for Seth going to SummerSlam. We then get our much ballyhooed Samoan Summit between Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe. Joe comes out first after they just had their big brawl backstage and says the Samoan Summit's been canceled to what he calls a catastrophic failure of peace talks. And then he calls out Roman. Roman shows up. They have a big old brawl. Joe throws Roman into the stairs, and Roman responds by throwing the stairs at Samoa Joe. Holy shit, that looked scary. Drew McIntyre shows up, so he and Joe beat up Roman. Cedric Alexander appears, and he makes a save, but Drew beats him up for a bit on the set. The brawl from the back resumes in the front, so you've got the OC and the Usos now joining the fray. Cedric has now made his way to the top of the set and dives onto all of them, which is a very impressive spot. Then somehow the fight makes its way to the ring area, and in the end, Team Roman stands tall. So you get the Roman and the Usos and Cedric are all celebrating as the show goes off the air. So not only did Jimmy Uso get the privilege of being in that Raw Tag Team title triple threat match and taking the fall in that match, he also gets to celebrate with the baby faces at the end. So thank God for accountability. Besides that awkward moment of Jimmy Uso getting to be there in that segment at the end, still a very, very exciting way to end the show. Smackdown begins as Shane McMahon does quite possibly the biggest heel move he's done this entire run as of late, is cutting a cell phone promo in profile mode. Boo, bad Shane McMahon, you know better. Anyway, he says he's not going to be there tonight, and he says he will beat Kevin Owens at SummerSlam and make him quit. Go to the live crowds, Kevin Owens is out there for his rebuttal promo. He says it is the Kevin Owens show, and he will be the one who wins at SummerSlam. Drew McIntyre interrupts and says that the two of them have a matchup tonight. Oh, by the way, it's actually right now, Drew says, after he beats up Kevin with a cheap shot. It shows a little bit of charisma. He's like posing on the announce table kind of sarcastically like, oh, by the way, that match is right now. It's actually a really good match here. Lots of wild near falls. Kevin is throwing everything he can at Drew McIntyre, who just kicks out of a lot of stuff. They're on the announce table. Kevin hits the stunner, another one in the ring, and that's how Kevin wins the match. Very good opener. Dolph Ziggler is backstage cutting a promo on just about everyone. You have no idea where he's ultimately going with this, but he drops the names of Mick Foley, Goldberg, and Shawn Michaels, and The Miz before talking about his match with Finn Balor coming up next in the night. He's like turning 8 shades of red as his promo's going. As he's getting more intense, it's just he's getting redder and redder. It's very intense here. Backstage, Bayley talks to her tag team partner for the evening, Ember Moon, and warns her not to cross her again or she will regret it. Damn, Bayley don't play. Then we go back to the dark room where Aleister Black wants somebody else to pick a fight with him. Why are we back in there? I thought we had gotten over this. Maybe more people would fight you if you left that dang old room. So that women's tag team match is up next as Bayley and Ember take on Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Ember looking pretty strong here in her comeback, but ultimately after hitting Nikki with the Eclipse, Alexa jumps her from behind, hits Twisted Bliss to win the match for the baddies. After the match is over, Bayley tries to console Ember, but then hits her with a belly-to-belly by surprise. Nice little bit of payback to what happened when Ember hit the Eclipse on her last week. Good little build towards SummerSlam here, and we're seeing more kind of like the mask slipping a bit from Bayley. She's no longer like the bright, bubbly baby face. She's not taking any guff like from the locker room conversation earlier to what happens here, and she's just kind of like shrugging off like, well, what are you gonna do about it? I hit you with the move, you know. And that, you know, I think that we're kind of seeing kind of more of like that. Maybe it's not going to be a heel turn, but we are seeing kind of a more dark side, more edgy version of Bayley where she's really showing she has some backbone. So we'll see where this goes. Then in a follow-up to Aleister Black's promo, Sami Zayn is being interviewed and says that he will pick a fight with Aleister Black at SummerSlam, and I'm really excited about that match on paper. I hope it's closer to Sami Zayn the way he fought against, say, like Shinsuke Nakamura or Kevin Owens, and not so much like how he fought Rey Mysterio on Monday night. Will Daniel Bryan make his career-altering announcement? No. It's now time for the return of the King's Court with Jerry Lawler. He's there in his hometown of Memphis, Tennessee, standing in the ring next to his giant gingerbread-looking throne. His guest is fellow Hall of Famer Trish Stratus. He brings up the Raw reunion from last week and asks if Trish has one more match left in her. She kind of dances around the question for a bit until Charlotte Flair interrupts. Charlotte challenges Trish to a match at SummerSlam and mocks the previous generation of divas and former models, what have you, and how they're doing so much better now today. Trish calls Charlotte the old reliable, calls her a bitch. Woo, that is really original. And so then Trish accepts the challenge and the match is on. It seems kind of a placeholder feud for Charlotte right now because she's not really in the middle of any angles at this moment. But assuming she wins at SummerSlam, it'll be a nice feather in her cap, a cap that is already just festooned with feathers. We get the return of the Firefly Funhouse. This time it's just Ramblin' Rabbit addressing the audience and saying that Finn Balor made a mistake challenging the Fiend to a match at SummerSlam. He then goes on to tease that there's more to the Funhouse than meets the eye, but before he can say anything more, he runs off because an angry Bray Wyatt is looking for him. And so very interesting to see. I'm very curious to know where this is all going to end up. What is the real secret of the Firefly Funhouse? We'll just have to find out a little bit later. But right now, the next match is the aforementioned Finn Balor taking on Dolph Ziggler. Finn is ready to put Dolph away, but then the lights go out and they come back up and you see the Fiend presumably on stage. You don't get any kind of reference point of where he's actually standing, so you just see him in this other shot. But, you know, Corey Graves, the line delivery of the century going, oh my God, the Fiend is here in the arena. The lights come back up. The Fiend is nowhere to be found. Ziggler hits Balor with a super kick to capitalize and wins the match. So more mind games on the part of the Fiend Bray Wyatt. Up next, a relatively short match here between Shinsuke Nakamura and Ali. It's a rematch to what happened on Smackville this past Saturday when Shinsuke retained the IC title against him. But like I said, pretty short match here. Ali dodges the Kinshasa and rolls up Shinsuke to win. So gosh, I guess this means a rubber match at SummerSlam seems like an inevitability. We get a Randy Orton interview package up next. It's basically a reiteration of what happened in their promo last week between Randy and Kofi, where they bring up, hey, they have history together from a decade ago. Randy held Kofi back. I love the fact they use the clip where he yells, stupid, stupid, stupid at him, and they go full circle when Orton says, oh, Kofi challenging me to the match? Stupid, stupid, stupid. That was great stuff. And yeah, Orton taking credit for Kofi's success as of late in the wake of Ali's injury. It's a very well done package, but we heard all this before the previous week on SmackDown. The New Day are being interviewed in the gorilla position. Big E refers to AJ Styles' gentrified ass, and then we go into the main event as Kofi Kingston takes on AJ Styles in a champion versus champion matchup. Holy shit, they wasted no time giving this kind of matchup away, did they? Like, here, we have two stables that all have like lots of gold, so let's immediately put them together. I'm sure they're going to build some kind of six-man tag team match. Obviously not SummerSlam, but somewhere down the line. I think waiting to pull the trigger on that would be a lot more exciting than just immediately give it all away. Anyway, they have a good match here. The action spills to the outside, and all hell breaks loose as the New Day and the OC are fighting. Ultimately, AJ goes to the forearm, but Kofi hits him with the Trouble in Paradise instead to win the match. You register that for all of 2 seconds, and then we go to the final segment of the night. This very interestingly blocked and directed segment here where Roman Reigns is supposed to address who he wants to face at SummerSlam. We get a shot of Kayla Braxton in the interview set, and then you see Roman Reigns slowly walking down the hallway, and it's cutting back and forth between the two of them. You never see this kind of composition ever before this. And so Roman's taking his sweet-ass time walking down the hallway as she's getting ready to introduce him for the interview. But before he can do anything, all of a sudden, this giant metal set comes down on him, and all of a sudden it cuts to a camera from the perspective of the metal thing falling on him, which immediately just ruins the illusion of kayfabe. It's very much like when in the halftime Heat empty arena match, when the forklift cam lowering down on the Rock, that kind of bullshit. But yeah, it's falling on him. Then all these precariously stacked up work crates just fall as well. It's basically a big Buster Keaton bit where everything falls around him without actually landing on him. So it's a very scary near miss. Roman is unscathed, but very deeply shaken from what happened as the show goes off the air. It would have been a much more effective moment if you didn't get all these different, trying to get too cute with the different camera angles. Now, I'm a fan of well-composed, different directorial takes. I've mentioned that before when talking about Raw in recent weeks, but this was a very weird way to go about it. The whole different camera angles, seeing Roman walking down the hallway was very illusion-breaking. So was the camera angle from the falling contraption. If you didn't have those elements, I think it would have been a much stronger thing, a much more spontaneous feeling. I feel like the video games, there have been some video game cutscenes in the career modes where something falls behind the guy, kind of playing off what happened when the same thing was happening to Austin back in 2000, I think. So I think those video games and those moments do a better job of conveying the kind of the fear of oh my God, something almost happened, almost killed somebody, than whatever this was. My money is on that it's Daniel Bryan who's responsible for it, because maybe he wants to alter the career of Roman Reigns. Maybe that's the twist, because he's not doing anything for SummerSlam right now, and Roman doesn't have an opponent lined up, so that might be where it's going with it. I don't read the dirt sheet, so maybe it's already been preordained, and I'm just kind of confirming what they've already been saying. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but that's where my mind is going with it. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or Smackdown. And this week, my pick is going to be Raw. Now, even though Raw's ratings this week were pretty low compared to the previous week, the Raw reunion, though in fairness, they spent absolutely zero time plugging anything for the following week to try and hook viewers in and lure them in for the next week. So what are you going to do? But don't let that number fool you. It's not indicative of the show's quality. I think the show quality was very good this week. Lots of interesting storylines and story progression, good matches, some good surprises, fun and crazy ending despite the awkwardness of Jimmy Uso being involved. SmackDown was a relatively clean and strong show as well. I think Raw just had stronger moments overall. And man, what was going on with that closing segment with Roman Reigns and the multiple camera angles? That thing was just really weird. Let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.